The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're open line through till 1, so call 66 13 68. WhatsApp 166 177. Message, same number, 166 177, or email studio@manxradio.com. Well, the year is fairly racing away with us now. MGP starts this Sunday, the 18th of August. 2 weeks today. It's Bank Holiday Monday, last Bank Holiday before Christmas. 2 weeks this Wednesday. Is it 2 weeks? 3 weeks this Wednesday. Yeah, it is. Back to school, Wednesday the 4th of September. I was working it out in my head, which means I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 weeks this Thursday. I think is Hop Tune. Thursday, October 31st. I know. It never stops, does it? Howard's first with us today. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just another annoying factor from the Douglas Corporation. I noticed on your website the other day that they're wanting to change the name of the library.
Oh, from Henry Blue Noble to Douglas City Library.
What a load of rubbish. These people, they're so far, they've got their heads up their own orifices that they can't even see the light. Let's just see. I'm just looking. I looked at the Regeneration and Community Committee that's suggesting this. And I've cancelled it. There it is. Excuse me, just a second. I just put my tablet down to switch itself off. Technology. They're proposing to spend anywhere between £7,500 and £9,000 plus just to change the name from the Henry Bloom Noble Library to the Douglas City Library. Now, what a farcical idea that is. They've come up with, I don't know, there must be somebody there in Cuckoo Land. I'd love to know what they're smoking. But Henry Bloom Noble was a benefactor, not only to Douglas, but to the whole of the island. The original Noble's Hospital, that was by his wife and himself. That was what's now the museum up there, top of Crellan's Hill. The land that was donated there belonged to them. Noble's Park. Now this is one. Ramsey Cottage Hospital. Knockalo Farm. Of course, the Villa Marina. St Ninian's Church. The Noble's Baths. There'd not be many people knocking around at the moment, remember them, but I do. They were down the end of Victoria Street.
Yeah, that's it. In fact, you can still see the remnants of them, can't you, by Fort Street?
Yep. I can remember I've been into the old baths, and then next door to that was the Regal Cinema, which Albert Goubet had knocked down, and that.
So what was Henry Blue? I mean, the library? Where did the library used to be before? It was down at the bottom of Victoria Street, and before then, where was it?
It was in the building what you use for the office now for the town hall.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, there was two shops. One was the cash register place and a farmer's combine, I think it was called, on the corner where that little garden is now. That was all knocked down. But the library was there, and my mother was a member of it for most of her life.
What was it called then, Howard?
But it moved to Victoria Street.
Yeah. What was it called when it was there before? Did it have a name, or was it just Douglas Library?
It was just Douglas Library.
Right.
The rural library used to be in Strand Street, Lexicon.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it became the Henry Bloom Noble Library, I think, when it was taken to the bottom of Victoria Street, wasn't it?
Yep.
That was under presumably Mr. Christian before.
Well, the councillors is on this particular committee, the Regeneration and Community.
Yeah.
A.J. Bentley, Shingle, Crellin and Skinner. And I looked it up this morning, and those names are virtually on every committee that's in the council. So we elect a number of councils for our area, but you don't see the names listed on the council committees. Now, who is nominating these? And it seems to be the same people all the time. That, as I say, Noble's Baths, and he was also involved with what we have today,
right?
He at the soup dispensary. But what is the idea behind this? That they seem to be hell bent on destroying anything that is part of Douglas.
Well, put it this way: I'm not. I mean, I keep my ear fairly close to the ground, Howard. I've not heard any clamour to get rid of the name Henry Bloom Noble Library.
No. Well, they got the Henry Bloom and his wife. He laid the ground and had the hospital built with a museum. It moved into Westmoreland Road. That was in 1909. It moved up to there. But there's now got the Henry Bloom Noble School there. Are they going to dispense with all names? A bit like these ones on the other side, the activists pulling these statues down and getting rid of this, getting rid of that. But one of the other things, I come along the promenade the other day, and we have the Jubilee clock down the bottom of Victoria Street.
Yeah.
And that's been moved 2 or 3 times. Yes, it's even been away for renovation. And that was built in 1887. And it's looking sorry for itself. And they're on the news just now saying this best year ever for people coming off the cruise ships.
It was a big day on Saturday, very big day as well.
Yeah, I can appreciate the trams going up to Snaefell.
Yeah.
They were closed to the public. It's a good thing. I'm not denying it. But why don't they tidy that end of the town up? You've got that damn big bird cage that's had a little bit more work done it and then stopped again in Duke Street. You've got an eyesore there where there's supposed to be a hotel and everything going up.
Yeah.
I hope it does. But the council are going around with rose-coloured glasses. They want to change. They're talking about borrowing $1.5 million to decimate the promenade gardens. And one they've just sneaked in, it was in the paper the other day, wanting to borrow $1.6 million plus to put a cladding on the Shoresbrow car park. I bet you half the people don't even know where Shoresbrow is.
Going back to Henry Bloom Noble, I mean, it's just a point, but if one of those many visitors, 19,000 odd visitors that come to the Isleman, or anybody else, MGP starts on Sunday, when it says Henry Bloom Noble Library, that's a conversation starter because it will pique their interest and they'll say, who the heck's Henry Bloom Noble? Hence, there's a conversation. If it says Douglas City Library, it's self-explanatory. No need for a conversation.
It is. And it's an insignificant name because, well, as far as I'm concerned, I've been born and bred in Douglas, and the name town is part and parcel of my lifestyle. The word city is like something you win on a packet of cornflakes. You know, it's insignificant. It was handed out, and there's various places all through the United Kingdom all got awarded these by Her Majesty the Queen.
Well, the thing is, Howard, if Douglas City Council, and again, I always, there's an open invitation, any of the councillors can come on Mannin Line and talk about this, but if there was some sort of totemic big plan for Douglas, I could understand it. At the moment, it appears to be under wraps, if I'm not mistaken.
It's more secret than the Gestapo.
It's quieter than an electric vehicle, Howard.
Yes, you're right. But there's more important things than... Well, you say that was only for the signage, £7,500 to £9,000. But what they don't say, all the paperwork, the headed note papers, the envelopes, everything that's attached to it will probably legally have to be changed to the Douglas City Library.
And a new stamp for the books.
Exactly. And also, the Henry Bloom Noble Trust is still in existence and handing out on a reasonably regular basis donations to various charities. Will the Douglas Town City Council, whatever they call themselves, say, well, we don't need that anymore, we're going to go our own way? So, but when you work out all the buildings, etc., there used to be the little building up where that children's play park is in Westmoreland Road. That was the dole office at one time. Then there's another one in Athol Street, just downside. And all the buildings this man put up. And here we are, we've got this group. And it is a group, they seem to be like a clique. And they're in and there's only 4 members in the committees, except they're 5, they have the mayoress there as well. She's, what do you call it, she's only there to take the order of a meeting.
Oh, ex officio.
Yeah, that's it. She takes the order and keeps the meeting in control. But these same faces, same names come up. If you look at it, all the committees that's on the town council, these are all linked into them, no matter what it is. So they must be virtually controlling the roost and saying just what they want to be done.
Okay. All right. Howard, I think you found a way to save the council £8,000.
I doubt it very much. I doubt it. But they should do, and if they do go ahead and take this name down, they should be ashamed of themselves and hang their head in shame. Because Henry Bloom Noble, we got the Villa Marina, which the government have got now, but Henry Bloom Noble given a myriad of items all through the island, not just in Douglas, so the town council can't claim it for themselves.
Okay. All right, Howard, we appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Take care. Bye now.
18 minutes past 12. Wilf's with us now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, something completely different now. A friend of mine was listening to a program on Radio 4 a little while ago, and there's a program on for about an hour, he said, and he said, Norway has completely banned scallop dredging and queenie dredging because it's destroyed their whitefish grounds, so they've stopped it completely. And they had to do something, so they've been experimenting, and they've discovered that strong light attracts the shellfish upwards.
Right.
Now they are developing nets and vacuums to catch them. Now it's that's not disturbing the seabed anymore, and the fish are starting to come back. Now. The seabed at all cod fishing has nearly been wiped out around the island. Now, that's our fish.
Right.
Due to scallop dredging.
Yeah.
Because we know it destroys the what's caught. Now, maybe, possibly, if our government could get in touch with Norway, get some advice, maybe they could be told how to save our fisheries. Just a short one.
I wonder. I think, will you be writing to them, Wilf?
Me?
Yes.
I can't write. I'm too old.
Okay. All right. So, just for anybody who's just joined us then, this is Norway that's banned scallop dredging, you say?
Yeah. They banned it in Norway completely because, as you know, you could actually get a holiday in Norway to go and catch big cod with a fishing rod. Now they wiped them out, so now they've started to come back again now because they've put this ban on them, and they're catching them all with light now, strong light, and nets and vacuums.
Strong light. What are they using for strong light?
They lower these things down to where the scallop beds are.
Right.
Strong light, and these apparently the scallops fly upwards towards the light. They're attracted to the light.
Right.
And then they've developed nets and vacuums.
And they
just suck them out of the water.
They hoover them up.
They don't disturb. Yeah.
Wow.
They don't disturb the seabed at all now.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. Thanks for that, Wilf. I'll take a look at that. It's good to hear from you. Thanks for that today. And, Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Did you hear the lightning and thunder? Well, hear the thunder and see the lightning last night?
What time was it?
I think it was quite late. I think I heard it about 1 a.m.
Oh, good grief! No, I was fast asleep. Fast asleep.
Oh, yes. Well, I only briefly. I was there, just sort of woke up to it. Speaking of electricity, I'd like to comment on Phil Gaughan's interview yesterday on Perspective with the Ørsted representatives, John Galloway and Ben Sykes.
Yeah.
Some of the points. The first is their claim that these turbines will last 35 years. They mentioned their oldest ones are like Burbo Bank, which were put in 07, 08. So that makes them 17 years old. So they've got to go the same again. Andy, do you remember Only Fools and Horses?
Yes, I do, yeah. I mean,
do you remember the episode?
Trigger's Brush.
Trigger's Brush. So he gets an award from saving the council some money by maintaining his road sweeping broom for 20 years.
Yeah.
However, he says that the broom has had 17 new heads and 14 new handles. So how many of those old turbines at Burbo Bank or any of their other old ones are going to have original components in them by the time they've done another 17 years on to make the 35 years?
Well, we never know, do we?
Well, that's it. There's some anecdotal evidence from some of the mentions also that there are some Ørsted staff who do the maintenance and also on the construction of the Walney wind farm that we see from the east side of the island at the moment. And they're saying they're having amazing amounts of work trying to keep up with the corrosion. So, you've got to ask the question, is this really a thing?
I just wonder what from a kind of physics point of view, I'd like to know where the stresses are on a wind turbine. What's the bit that takes the most stress? Is it the axle, where the turbine actually is? I mean, does the base get any sort of stress from the tides or the waves? I'd be really interested to know, anybody who builds the darn things, what's the bit that's most at risk from stress?
Well, there's huge amounts of tensile stress on it because you can imagine the amount of rocking these things are doing.
Yeah.
And, he mentioned, Benj mentioned green concrete. But when you look into green concrete, they take out a lot of the Portland cement, which is what gives it its good strength and durability. And they start adding in things, including stainless steel, which uses rare earth element molybdenum, for its self-sealing properties, hence the reason why it doesn't rust. And it's massively expensive. So the green concrete that he mentioned has low split tensile strength. So you've got to wonder, your question about how strong they're going to be, if they're starting to look at green concrete, there's a lot of problems with that technology as yet. They haven't really found anything to go, the Portland concrete's good stuff. And that's the reason it's been around for so long, because they found it's easy to get, it's cheap. And it does the job.
I was taken with one comment during the programme yesterday, which I'd never thought about before, and Phil brought up quite rightly what happens when the wind doesn't blow. And he said, that's obviously an issue because, these things basically turn themselves off because there's no wind every now and again. But he said you get a similar problem with nuclear power you can't turn that off. So nuclear produces electricity when you don't need it all the time. So there's always a kind of up and down. I'd never thought about the issue with nuclear power in that it's very difficult to turn a nuclear power station off.
You've also got exactly on that point. I think John Galloway said that he was asked by Phil about how often these things are working, and he said they're turning 80% of the time, but that's not at full power. They may just be sort of, just a bit.
Yeah.
And he said that the amount of time that they're at full power is 41%, which, this calculation of how much power over what it could do. So the load factor, 41%. They said it yesterday, which sort of makes Erie Stain look a bit stranger, between 74 and 85%. But when you're told things, you have to think about this. If they're saying that it's turning sometimes at 80%, that means it's not doing anything at all for 20%, doesn't it?
And also, Phil valiantly tried to find out how much we're going to get for all this, didn't he?
There's 2 points on this. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So 20% of the year means that those turbines will not do anything for 73 days of the year. That's over 10 weeks, 2.5 months, or the thick end of 2,000 hours of the year. You'll get nothing, and you've got to find something else. And batteries were mentioned. And, I've mentioned it, Ewan's mentioned it. It's mental amounts of money. If it's £75 million for 2 hours, what's 2,000 hours going to cost?
Well, presumably this is why I think the Ørsted thing has got, comes with an interconnector, doesn't it? From somewhere near Preston to around Groudle. It will mean that we'll have to have another interconnector to the UK, to England.
But you also mentioned about the getting power from the wind turbines to the island as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious about this point because it's 100 megawatts, so there's a couple of points that are interesting. One is, at the moment, Pulrose is running on gas, and the strike price, the market price, is £65 a megawatt. But the UK government are paying Ørsted £102 a megawatt for the electricity that's from their offshore turbines, Anglia One.
Where did you find that number?
It's on the government website. The UK government website.
Right.
So that's 57% more expensive than gas-powered electricity. So 57% more expensive for offshore. So Ørsted, as you said many times, is in the business of doing this. Are they going to offer us electricity, and we're going to be paying less than £102 a megawatt when we're paying 57% less with the gas turbine that we've got up the road? And the other side of this, curtailment is nothing to do with load factors, but if we take what they're saying to us, T. Riley and the energy transition team have said, we're keeping the number of turbines low because we don't want to go above the minimum, which they say is 20 megawatts. So if you're going to bring 100 megawatts of another wind farm in, what's that going to do to their turning off things? Because they're saying in one side of this, we're going to have to turn, we don't have to turn the wind turbines off because we've only got the minimal amount. If you start bringing over 5 or 6 times that amount, they're going to be turned off all the time, aren't they, when we're asleep and we don't need anything in the summer? So the logic of what they're saying doesn't make any sense when you start bringing in massive power from Ørsted then, does it?
Okay. All right, Julian, we appreciate that. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
29 minutes past 12, and Dave's on now. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Good, thanks, yeah.
I just read an article this morning in the Telegraph about the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And it's to do with in conjunction with the steam packet, because they are paying £440 return to the mainland for a car.
The Isle of Wight?
The Isle of Wight, which is about 10 miles.
Yeah.
And it's quite if anybody got the Telegraph, they should be reading it, because it says at peak times, like their Cows Week, which would be our TT Week, it's £440.
Yeah.
And they've had to introduce a special rate for people going to the hospital on the mainland of £70.
Oh, I've just got onto the Daily Telegraph. Yes, apparently there's one in the Daily Mail as well, as you say.
Right. It comes from the Daily Mail.
400. Some people, furious Isle of Wight locals held to ransom by ferry companies, say they can't wait to move.
That's right. That's right. So the steam packet aren't doing so bad, I think.
Well, I'm sure they'll be very happy to hear that, Dave.
Yes, well, I think there's people are whinging about it, but they don't realise other things are happening.
Yeah, good. Okay, all right. Thanks for being with us.
Just another thing.
Okay.
Before I go, these 20-mile-an-hour speed limits they're wanting to put in. You know, they're asking for. There's been one down the end of our road here, and I'm telling you now, probably about 150 cars go through a day, and I bet not one of them is doing 20 mile an hour.
And whereabouts is that?
In Port Erin.
I mean, do you think the 20 mile... Is it a good idea in principle? It's just not being...
Well, it's a good idea in principle if you're policing it, but nobody's policing it. Who's going to police it?
Well, that's easy. Honestly, easy. All they do is put a camera... If they put a speed camera up, they could nick people.
Well, yeah, if that's what you want to do. But at the moment, it's just pointless making laws and not being able to police them. It's not the police's fault. Can't have a fella there all the time just for 20 mile an hour. I think it's disgusting. I do. I really do. They want to get off their backsides, these fellas, and come out and do it.
All right,
they're useless.
We appreciate that. Thanks for calling today.
Cheers, yourself.
Good to hear from you. The owners of Wight is the ferry company operating the routes across the Solent between Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. I think is it Lymington, Yarmouth and Portsmouth? I think the Lymington one still goes. Anyway, Wight used to be owned by Macquarie, the people who owned the steam packet about 3 owners ago. But it's now owned by a couple of infrastructure partners, Basalt Infrastructure and Fiera Infrastructure. So, Wight the price goes up for Cows Week, and another pinch point, £440 to get off the Isle of Wight with a car. What do you think?
The only radio station that's Manx, and we're proud of it. Celebrating 60 years, this is Manx Radio.
Hey, June, I wanted to tell you about the Green Living Grant. Well, new Spectrum windows and doors are so energy efficient they qualify for the Green Living Grant, with funding available for up to 50% of the cost. I saved £5,725. Get your quote in for approval before the end of September.
Don't delay. Contact Spectrum Windows today on 817777. T's and C's apply.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors. With a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
Looking for the perfect phone? Manx Telecom have got you covered. From easy-to-use Emporia flip phones to the top-of-the-line iPhone 15 Pro Max with a 48-megapixel camera, we have a phone for everyone. Save up to £288 when you purchase alongside a tariff. Save even more when you trade in your old handset and spread the cost too with prices from just £4 per month. Come and see the full range in store and visit mt.im for full details, terms and conditions.
Look forward to a cleaner, greener future by switching to gas with Isle of Man Energy. You'll get a future fuel-ready smart boiler with smart controls and 10 years servicing included. And on top of reducing your local carbon emissions with a state-of-the-art boiler and cleaner fuel, Isle of Man Energy will remove that dirty old oil tank, all from just £25.20 per month. Think greener and find out more today. Visit isleofmanenergy.im and click Switch to Gas.
How do we manage waste across the island? Who's responsible for recycling? And why do some local authorities pay substantially more for their regional recycling centres than others? Is the current rate system fair? And if not, why has rates reform never been tackled? And while we're discussing reform, why do we still have such a disparate range of local authorities, from very large to very tiny? All these questions and more will be answered on this week's agenda at 5:30 this evening on Manx Radio with Emma Draper and me, Phil Gaughan. Everything you've ever wanted to know about local government, and probably a bit more.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
25 to 1 now. Regarding the change of library name, why spend £9,000 on... why don't they spend the £9,000 on painting Marine Drive or some railings, some bus shelter seats? I saw several MHKs at the Royal Show, including the Chief Minister, who was being questioned by a lot of people. No sign of Claire Barber, who apparently was off the island, and didn't see the meat plant's new head. Where were they? If not, why not? Well, I think they were both... I think they were on holiday, to be quite honest. Claire Barber... Scott Gallagher was on, the chief officer from DEFRA on Mannin Line on Friday, and Rebecca Meir wasn't there, the boss of the meat plant. Kiri Kermode was standing in for for that. So there were people there from there. I support everything Howard said. I'm disgusted with the councillors, and I hope it doesn't happen. It should stay the Henry Bloom Noble Library. Another views, James says the library never was the Henry Bloom Noble Library until the early part of the millennium. Why is there such a fuss about a name change now? There are enough things in Douglas named after Henry Bloom Noble. He didn't leave anything in his will for a library, says James. I know, but we're going to have to pay for it. That's all. And as I mentioned, it is a conversation starter. Bonzo's with us now. Hi, Bonzo.
Ah, yes. Well, talking about paying for things, Julian, of course, in his usual way, saying how Ørsted and the MUA wanting to do renewable energy, wind generation, are just in some ways evil and going to cost the Isle of Man a fortune. Right, well, let's start with Ørsted, shall we? With Ørsted, it is a commercial enterprise. Publicly quoted company. It is something that does these things, as you say, in order to make money.
Yeah.
So it's the one that's going to be spending the money, costing the cost of a turbine, the cost of a. So what? They're the ones who are buying it. We're not. We're the ones who are getting the money from them being able to site the turbine there, and then get some more money as a levy on the amount of power produced, and then get various other goodies as well. So, what's the problem? As for the how much we're going to get from it, right? Again, Ørsted, publicly listed company. This is a project that's going to cost what? I don't know, rough thumbsuck on it, £5 billion. That's an awful lot of money. And that's the kind of thing where if there's problems with the project or issues of planning, etc., that affects the share price. So that's not going to be revealed until everything is agreed. The actual payments to Isle of Man government, etc. Even though Mr. Gallagher was saying on Perspective he'd be sort of happier to release these things, but I'm not quite sure what people at headquarters might say, but I think that is something that it would be classified as commercial and market sensitive, and there may be issues with stock market rules about that. So,
but wouldn't you think that if the government actually announced or gave us a ballpark figure as to how much Ørsted were going to pay for the rental of the seabed, and a ballpark figure just to say if everything, with fair wind, pardon the pun, how much money we would look to make per year, that could sweeten the pill of having these 1,000-foot things off the Laxey and Ramsey coast?
Yes, but first off, how far is that ballpark figure going to be indicative enough so that people see exactly how much, and then work backwards and work about the effect on cash flow for other projects and things for the company? So there's that. Also, these 1,000-foot things. As John Galloway, I think, explained on the Perspective programme, that's the absolute tallest that they're going to be. And that's actually putting the biggest scenario of how many turbines and how big they are into the consultation process and the planning progress. So, no surprises, being absolutely upfront with everybody about what the maximum would look like, but it might not be that. And there are other things that they're looking to do, I believe, in mitigation, such as with the navigation lights, some kind of collision system, TCAS as they have on aircraft, so that the lights don't come on until an aircraft is flying relatively near, and then the light comes on, rather than just sort of busy spewing out light everywhere all night. And also, to say that the height of these things, these 14 megawatt turbines, yes, they are bigger. But another thing to remember is that, as I've said before, other people are building such wind farms, within the sight of the Isle of Man. And you can either have a sport view that goes around 270 degrees, around the island, because, of course, there's the one that's being built round by Dublin. There's the Mona and the other one, which will have views from the Sound and the south of the island, as well as the issues with the shipping route and the steam packet route and such. But all that will be there, spoiling the view, being inconvenient, and we'd not get a penny for the inconvenience. Whereas here, yes, okay, some visual impact, but the thing is that we get those, many millions, fingers crossed, lots of millions of pounds, so that we can actually have that money to have more public services, more health care, more teachers, more GPs, fix the roads.
Do you recall during the programme, did they mention how far away this is?
Well, the build time is, 7 years? Well, that's going through all the planning process as well. So The thing is supposed to be actually working by 2032. But the moment you sign, once planning has been agreed, and you start construction, you are then in the what's termed AFL, Agreement for Lease Payments. And those are the big ones, although they're not going to be anywhere near as big as the Crown Estate ones. That was a kind of once in a lifetime thing at the top of the market, but they will still be substantial enough to really help. And that's the thing. There is going to be a bit of a trade-off, but what we get for it is far in excess of the inconvenience. And as I say, we'll have all the inconvenience anyway. The view's spoilt. That ship sailed long ago.
So in your heart of hearts, Bonzo, are you convinced that the Ørsted offshore wind farm on the Manx seabed is a good thing?
On balance, yes. Because, yes, there's the downside to it, of visual impact, but it will provide us with sorely needed funds.
Okay, we appreciate it. Bonzo, thanks for calling. Okay. Good to hear from you. Here's Dave with us now. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Andy.
What have you got to report?
Well, I'm continuing the theme of Howard's things disappearing and Bonzo's visual aspect. I was very disappointed to see that the Triskelion stone monument at North Barul has vanished and disappeared.
I'm sure I saw it last week.
According to other news sources, not Manx Radio, I thought it might have been on the news this morning. It's gone. Now, I tried to go up there this morning and verify for myself, but North Barul was shrouded in mist. I couldn't see it anyway.
Oh, it's clearer now.
Has it disappeared or not? It looks like it may have gone. So who's removed it? As DEFRA or DOI, obviously they didn't want it there in the first place since Brian Collis had put it there without permission. On my tours, it's always a point of interest because I can introduce it when you get into Ramsey because you can see it in the headland there.
Yeah.
And then I always stop at Joey's there, the 26, and discuss what we can see and then point it behind me. So it was a great point of interest. And I personally liked it because it was tastefully done and it showed our heritage and over a big landscape.
Yeah.
So what's happened to it? Why is it disappeared? I'm very disappointed. Sometimes as a tour guide, I feel that we have to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear sometimes anyway and paint a story for things that aren't there. So This is just another nail in the coffin of, come on, government, what are you doing to us here? Who's removed this? Just see if you can get to the bottom of it, Andy. Maybe you can get the news guys on the team. Has it disappeared and why has it disappeared?
Okay, we'll get somebody with a drone up there. Thanks for calling today, Dave.
Thanks, Andy.
Good to hear. It's 1:45 on Manx Radio. After Mannin Line today, it's Monday. You know what that means? 60th anniversary broadcast. We're 60 years of age this. I don't know whether I've mentioned it before, but we're 60. There was a serious outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the UK in 2001. And during the outbreak, the island farmer Graham Crowe spoke to John Kenyuk, remember John, about the dangers that foot and mouth would pose to agriculture on the Isle of Man. Graham Crowe and John Kenyuk, after Mannin Line today, 60th anniversary archive stuff. We're looking at the foot and mouth. Regarding the change of the name from Henry Bloom Noble to Douglas City Library. Here's a message. It just said, they've taken the dustbins to once a fortnight. They're telling us what we have to do with the recycling, and now they're taking away Henry Bloom Noble Library. What do Douglas City councillors actually get up to? Thanks also to a WhatsApper, 535, just sent somebody somewhere, I don't know who this is, but has left household rubbish left by the green recycling bills at the grandstand at the weekend. Somebody somewhere doesn't quite understand where you put the black bin bags. There's a 20-mile-per-hour sign painted on the road by the power station in Douglas. Nothing else sign-wise as well. I think the library also spent some time in the Hanover Street School, probably in the early 1970s, says Texter 228. Regarding the change of library name, I've written to my councillors, asking them not to vote for it. If others feel the same way, contact your councillors to express your view. The matter is going to be discussed Wednesday of this week. Thank you. That's WhatsApper 302. And if you are in Douglas and you want to know who your councillor is, simply go to douglas.gov.im. The website is douglas.gov.im, and you'll be able to see all the councillors. And just to reiterate, the Regeneration and Community Committee putting this forward: Councillor Bentley, Councillor Schwengel, Councillor Crellin, Councillor Skinner, and the Mayor ex officio is in there. Have you heard? The Isle of Man Airport Facebook staff has been blocked, apparently. Maybe the Facebook's gone on a break, says Dave. I didn't know that. Somebody's just sent me a photo of North Barrule, and I can't see. I don't know whether somebody's painted over it or what's happened to the Triskelion up there. Lots of messages coming through today also regarding the protest by the farmers at the weekend. The fact that you could get, it sounds great. Everybody got a free 2-kilogram bag of Allinson's spuds at the weekend at the Royal Show. But you heard the reason, that they can't sell them. And when we were talking to the people on the panel on Friday, we had Bill Dell from Beach Buddies, Ian Parsons was there from the Manx NFU, Scott Gallagher from DEFA, Kiri Kermode from the Meat Plant, Finlay McLeod from the Creamery, and Andy Bass from Conister Bank, and also Andrew Corran, who was director of the show. Well, Ian Parsons just said, times are tough. They get Allinson's, they get Manx potatoes into Tesco, but Co-op, you'd have thought the Co-op, being ethical, will be doing something about it, but apparently no, it's very difficult to get it in. And what they're saying is, embarrass the retailers by asking for Manx fruit, Manx veg, particularly spuds. Otherwise, they'll just give up. Already one grower has given up in the south of the Isle of Man. And bit by bit, if these things just keep falling away, then what we're going to have left? Got a message in from Rumour. Hello, Rumour, who said, what happens next time if we lose Manx fruit and veg? What happens if there's a strike at Heysham? Or if Heysham goes offline or silts up or something happens, something blocks it, and we can't get anything in, we can't get any freight. What happens then? If we're not growing our own fruit and vegetables, it just seems a bit silly, says Rumour. And here's one in from Trevor. Trevor dropped me a note from Kurt Michael, who just said, this is getting silly. If Alf Cannon is trying to attract 15,000 new residents to the Isle of Man, it's a fair assumption some of them will want a newspaper on a Sunday. It's been over a month now when our newspapers for Sunday arrive late Sunday afternoon, if not Monday morning. What do we say to people who join us, come to the Isle of Man to live here, when on a Sunday morning they say, I'll go and get a paper? Seriously, what do we say? Ron dropped a note in from Ballabeg. I went to the Ørsted presentation at Port Erin last week. I asked one of the Ørsted staff if we could get cheaper electricity from the proposed wind farm. His answer was the price will be set by the MUA. Ørsted will sell the power to the MUA and the MUA will set the price to the consumer. That's us. So the hints and promises from the Green advocates about cheaper power will be taken with a very large pinch of salt. Says Ron, we are in the lap of the MUA.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
What is Manx fruit? Says Texter 376. Do we grow any fruit on the Isle of Man? It seems Douglas City Council, says Phil, are taking the leaf out of the motorsport division of the Department for Enterprise. The motorsport people are slowly eroding all the TT and MGP history prior to 2007. Douglas City Council are attempting to do the same with a change of name to the library, says Phil. Thank you for that. Bought some Allinson's potatoes in Tesco yesterday, says Norman. They taste lovely. Met some people at the Royal Show on Saturday who were from Ulster, and they were absolutely thrilled. They were taking back 3 bags of potatoes to Ulster, and they'll be reporting how they taste. At the Royal Show, people said they had no outlets for foodstuff, still no pick-up by government of you saying, why don't they use Chester Street for the market, the old ShopRite, the Lipton's before that, wasn't it? Where can you get Allinson Spuds, says Q? Well, certainly in Tesco, and I'm sure you can get Allinson Spuds at Robinson's at Balapada. I'm looking at the hill now, says Texter 225. It's either been painted black or it's gone. It was here I saw it last week. Sarah delivering in Ramsey, so it appears that the Triskelion might have gone.
Want to know what makes you feel like this?
You get such a buzz. If you've never done it, you can just imagine having your very first ice cream or your very first chocolate bar. That's what it's like.
It's like a feeling of freedom. It's just like, wow, this is what I've dreamt of. It's the best.
That first lap, I came back in and I was like, I'm not doing anything else. If I don't do anything else in life, I've succeeded.
Yeah, it was just mind-blowing. Everything I thought it was going to be and more.
Find the Journey to a Dream podcast brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance at motorsport.manxradio.com or from your favourite podcast provider.
Thanks also to 608, who says, just sent me an image and it looks like he reckons the Triskellion's been painted grey. Well, it's certainly not bright. Texter 539, I was in Guernsey a while back. The hotel restaurant was offering a starter of Queenies at $4.50 per Queenie. Hope our government are supporting and not suffocating this great Manx export. £4.50 per Queenie. That's good. You mentioned community service for inmates of the prison. Why don't the powers that be introduce a new system for anybody found guilty of benefit fraud, as they usually arrange to pay back the money stolen from the Manx Treasury at £5 or £10 a week? Why don't they carry out 1 or 2 hours community service for every pound taken, says 557. Well, would that be equitable, you think? Thank you, 557. Apparently, there are some inmates of the prison doing community service around Onken. I think they're doing gardening work. That's it. Gotta go. What a lovely day today. Enjoy the rest of it. Thanks to Howie Kane on the phones today. We're back with another open line tomorrow on Mannin Line.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
Apart from the weather and rising prices, the Manx farming industry is constantly aware of the danger from significant livestock disease like foot and mouth. There was an outbreak of foot and mouth in the UK in '67, then again in 2001. In 2001, major restrictions were brought into the island to protect the Manx herd. At that time, Graham Crowe, who farms in the Baldwin Valley, described the dangers to farming correspondent John Kenyock. Incidentally, we still don't have a set-aside quarantine facility.
I think really what it does is help to focus your attention on the little things, the detail of things, and really minimising the risk to yourself and to your business and the risk of spreading anything that may well be around. That's the unseen threat, something that you can't see. You can do nothing about anything which is wind-borne or which could be brought into your premises by birds, for example. I was just thinking about that this morning. I mean, on a regular daily basis, we're getting visits from probably 6 or 8 different species of birds, right from a massive flock of rooks that descends on the trees around the buildings here every night just before dusk on their way to the Ingerbrecht rookery. From that through to the sort of magpies, greybacks, blackback gulls, herring gulls, ravens, and all the little birds that are flitting in and out. And I think they probably realistically pose just as big a threat to us as anything that anybody might bring onto the farm inadvertently.
And a sheep shed has to be open and quite inviting to those. I mean, there's feed in there, you have to have access for ventilation. There's no way we can keep those out.
No, but we don't have the massive flocks of starlings that they have across in the UK, and that's one thing in our favour, I think, here. That really must pose a big threat across in England and the British Isles in general, the flocks of starlings that move around from farm to farm, feeding and making a general mess of things.
The facilities for keeping animals separate when they come into the island, quarantine facilities at the port, I think surely that must be something that must now come sooner rather than later.
Yes, that's one of the things that we certainly need to absolutely hammer out once this thing is all done and dusted on this occasion. This is not the time for sort of recrimination and asking why hasn't this been done and the benefit of hindsight, etc., etc. But over the course of the last 20 years, I think we've consistently been asking for a quarantine facility. It's a very basic requirement of an island community where you need to protect yourself as much as possible from the potential infection from outside, and somewhere where imported stock can be taken and remained in isolation for the proper period of time, possibly 2 or 3 weeks, whatever it would take, before they're introduced onto the farm where they're going with the intention of improving the breeding. And in my opinion, if that facility had been in place, then there's absolutely no need for the big pig herd to have been destroyed that we've seen. I mean, the implications of that are not only there on that particular individual farmer, but that'll be felt throughout the rest of the livestock sector on the island, because a big herd like that was producing a lot of pigs every week for the meat plant, and somebody's going to have to pick up the extra costs that'll impose on the rest of the producers now.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.